Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Guys of Magic. This is Hunter, David, Shane, and Steven. Say what up, boys.
Yo, what's going on?
Hello.
What's up, nerds?
We are back with another episode of Commander Grades for the Doctor Who set. That is right. We are still going through all of these Commander Grades of every single pre-con deck. If you guys haven't seen the other videos, check the description. There'll be links to those videos as well. But if you guys don't know what Commander Grades is, we go ahead, talk about these cards as potential commanders. If you don't know what that is, we talk about these legendary creatures as potential commanders, give them a grade, give a consensus grade at the end, and really just have a discussion on if the card's good or not. So let's go ahead and get started with Paradox Power. That is the pre-con deck from Doctor Who. This first card is Bill Potts. It's 3 in a red for a 2/4 legendary creature human. It says whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell that targets only Bill Potts or activate an ability that targets only Bill Potts, copy that spell or ability. You may choose new targets for the copy. This ability triggers only once each turn. It's a Doctor's Companion. Dave, do you like Bill Potts?
Dude, this had me so excited over here, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is like Zada with a companion, and then it said those final words of once per turn, and my interest in this card completely died.
Yeah, it is good reference, Zada. But yeah, that once per turn, that's how they fix those.
And that's why it's not as strong. Unfortunate, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, I mean, I don't even know what doctor we would need to think about what doctor to pair this with.
I mean, you could just get into the partner situation. It's just like sometimes, pick the color combination you want.
I guess that's true.
Yeah, I mean, that's still a pretty powerful effect.
It is, but just like once per turn sucks, dude.
It does. You could throw Zada in this deck.
I mean, it sucks unless you have other things that help you copy.
Yeah, multiple copy spells and mono red. Granted, I know you guys will say it. You can pair it with a doctor. That's true.
Yeah, I feel like you're definitely pairing this with the doctor because at just mono red, 4 mana for this. I don't know if I want this.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we're all kind of already on board with this card already. So let's move on to the grades. Bill Potts for me is getting an A D.
They're gonna
Same.
say, hey. Yeah, I'm gonna give it a D, dude.
I'm gonna actually give it a C for the flexibility aspect of it. Once per turn sucks, but there's still a lot you can do with the card.
Well, Bill Potts. It's the average grade of a D. Next up, Clara Oswald. It's 6 generic mana for a 2/6 legendary creature human advisor. It has Impossible Girl, which means if Clara Oswald is your commander, choose a color before the game begins. Clara Oswald is the chosen color. It also has an ability that says if a triggered ability of a doctor you control triggers, that ability triggers an additional time. It is a Doctor's Companion. Huh.
Nope.
This ain't gonna do it for me.
It's the 6, dude. I know.
It is 6 mana. It does the ability thing twice, which is cool. But it is 6 mana, and I mean, if you're just bringing this card and a companion to the table, someone's not gonna know what color you are until you play.
I guess,
This is your way of including black in your Doctor Who deck.
There you go.
That is right, Dave.
If this wasn't 6, man, that'd be so crazy. I can imagine her with. I mean, a lot of the doctors have really good triggered abilities. Like even, can you imagine the 9th Doctor with her, dude? 4 untapped or upkeep triggers. It's a lot of triggers.
Yeah, that would be a lot of triggers. I mean, even with your other Doctor.
Yeah, it's just that mana cost is icky.
Icky.
I mean, there's so much cost reduction in Magic, but I mean, it's still 6, then to 8, then to 10.
Yeah.
Like it's so much.
It's aggressive, dude. As Steven would say, it's aggressive.
Be aggressive. Well, how about this? What if you just ran Clara Oswald as just the only commander in the deck, but you could pick whatever color you want, just throw a bunch of changes against. Then all the triggered abilities, they're all doctors at that point, right?
I mean,
No.
that is true, right? No?
It is true.
I don't. A lot of the changelings actually still don't have like triggered abilities that are any decent. There's, I think, 2 that I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah, I want to like Clara a lot, but I can't, dude.
If you attach an equipment that said whenever something attacks or you had something, I don't know. No, that doesn't work, does it?
You're putting way too many pieces together here, and it's been like convincing me of this card.
Yeah, all right. I tried. I fought for you, Clara. Let's move on to the grades. Clara, it's an F.
I'll give it a D. It does something, but it's a D.
I'm actually gonna give it an F too.
Man, this is a lot of power in my hands. You know what? I'm persuaded to the dark side. I'm going to give her an F.
Clara Oswald unfortunately gets the average grade of an F. Next up, Dan Lewis. It's 1 and a red for a 2/2 legendary creature human. It says non-creature, non-equipment artifacts you control are equipment in addition to their other types and have equipped creature gets +1, +0, and equip cost of 1. It's also a Doctor's Companion.
Huh.
Yeah, this was a pretty out of place card in the Paradox Power deck with the +1/+1 counter thing and casting things from other than your hand. It was just like, what? But, yeah.
I mean, it's a neat effect. It's also a cheap commander. It's just like not something that I think is all that impactful.
You make all your treasures into equipment. What you want to do, right?
Not necessarily for this.
You don't want to wear a couple of beef tenderloins?
I mean, no.
I actually think this card's kind of cool.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It is cool. It's unique. I just don't think it's impactful.
Let's move on to the grades. Dave, what are you giving Dan Lewis?
I'm going to give him a D. I just don't think he does anything.
I think I'm right there with you, man. I'm going to give this a D as well. I think it is kind of cool because you can have so many +1, +0s, but I mean, how far do you want to take that?
I'm also on
Yeah.
the D train, but
D for Dan. That's for me as well. Well, Dan Lewis gets the average grade of a D. Moving on to Danny Pink. It's 3 and a blue for a 4/3 legendary creature human soldier advisor. It's got mentor. That means whenever this creature attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on target attacking creature with lesser power. And it has creatures you control have whenever one or more counters are put on this creature for the first time each turn, draw a card. How do we think about Danny Pink, David?
I think this is a fairly neat effect. I do like card draw. This could actually be quite a bit of card draw as well. So I think this card is actually pretty solid.
I agree. I think Danny Pink has the possibility to do something pretty well. I mean, he gives you all creatures that ability. That's a lot of card draw.
I don't really know why I would want this card at the helm of my deck. I think this would be a really cool support card, but that's really it.
I think it's a very cool support card as well. I mean, yeah, mono blue, that restriction there is pretty impactful, and this is not actually a companion you can attach to a doctor. So it is going to have to stay in that mono blue lane if you are running this as a commander. I don't know, man, because you can proliferate. That still enables all of those creatures to draw a card. That's they already had a counter on it. That's pretty wild.
I feel like there's a lot of hoops you got to jump through here.
Not really. Like David always says, it does the thing that the card wants to do. It's on the card, right?
I mean, it does enable itself. I will, however, admit that like 4 mana for a 4/3 and in blue, this is probably not attacking much, but it still has potential.
I mean, my only issue with this card, if I'm honest with you, is it only puts that +1/+1 counter on one target creature. So granted, you are drawing at least one card, but you have to attack with this and that creature, and I just don't know that many massive things that you're going to be putting in your deck to help. I actually hate this card.
I'm not. I mean, the mentor part is cool, but I think the second part is so much more impactful.
Sure.
Like, you don't even have to swing it with this. All right. Well, let's move on to the grades. Shane, what are you giving Danny Pink?
I think it's a C, dude.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you there, Shane. I like Danny Pink a little bit, so I'm gonna give him a C.
I'm gonna give this card a big old D.
I'm gonna give it a C. I like card advantage.
Card advantage is good. Average grade for Danny Pink. It's a C. Next up, Graham O'Brien. 1 and a green for a 2/2 legendary creature human pilot. It's got Paradox, which means whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, create a food token. It's a Doctor's Companion. Little too basic for me. Not impactful.
Yeah, food tokens really aren't doing it for me. This is also kind of relatively slow, and then it's not always going to be able to make the food token, so I'm going to pass on this card entirely.
You know, David, I remember when we were doing the Lord of the Rings, and you were like, food can be a thing in the future. And we are getting a lot more food cards. You are absolutely correct. With Eldraine, we have got some here in Doctor Who, but you're right. This is still not doing enough.
This card's awful as a commander.
Yeah. It's not good, Graham. Graham, he's just too smug sitting there.
He's great support, dude.
Yeah, he is definitely. It's just a support card, and I did the Paradox Power upgrade. This was a cut. It was a cut from good old Graham. But let's move on to the grades. Graham getting an F from me. That's not enough, especially.
Yeah, I'm giving it an F, dude.
You guys are mean, so I'm gonna give this an F too.
Whoa. Okay, guys, listen. There's no need to be. It's an F.
Sorry, Graham. The average grade for Graham O'Brien is an average of an F. Moving on to Iraxxa, Empress of Mars. It's 2 and 2 red for a 5/4 legendary creature alien warrior. It's got trample. It's got battle cry. In case you forgot, that means whenever this creature attacks, each other attacking creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn. And it has paradox, which means whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, create a 2/2 red alien warrior creature token.
All right, now we're talking, baby.
Yeah, you see what's interesting about this card? I'm just going to talk about the rarity for a second. This one's an uncommon, and I feel like it should be rare. It's a good card, especially in red. Most of these exile things from your or top of your deck to play from your hand, like a Ren's Resolve or something, that's red. That's all red. So getting that paradox trigger on this card seems super easy.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot more that you can do with this one. I generally like this, actually, probably more than most of the other cards we've talked about so far this video.
Yeah, plus this is like a 4-mana 5/4 trample battle cry. Makes you the things. It's hitting all those boxes.
Yeah, I agree. This is a really powerful commander. That's an alien warrior. I have no idea what this is, but it's cool.
I mean, it could be fun. Playing some stuff out of exile. I'm down for it.
Yeah, let's move on to the grades for Iraxxa. I like this card enough to give it a B.
Yeah, I know it's crazy, but I'm actually going to go right there with you.
I'm sticking with a C. I still think that the combat-focused monocolor commander is still a little slow, but it is at least capable of doing some stuff.
Yeah, I'm on C, dude.
Well, Iraxxa, Empress of Mars, gets the average grade of a B. Moving on to a couple of partners. This is Jenny Flint and Madame Vastra. Jenny Flint is 1 a blue and a red for a 2/2 legendary creature human detective. It says partner with Madame Vastra. It's got first strike and training. If you forgot, that means whenever this creature attacks with another creature with greater power, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. And whenever you sacrifice a clue or food, put a +1/+1 counter on another target creature you control. Madame Vastra is 2 a green and a blue for a 3/3 legendary creature lizard detective. It's got partner with Jenny Flint. And it says Madame Vastra must be blocked if able. And whenever a creature dealt damage by Madame Vastra this turn dies, create a clue token and a food token. What do we think, Steven?
I like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really actually do enjoy this. Both the commanders are in the style that I'd really like. 3-mana cost, 4-mana cost. The Jenny will come in. It's a 2/2. Madam comes in. 3/3. Really helps each other out.
They do partner very well with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, Madame Vastra has to deal damage to a creature. I mean, I know it must be blocked if able, so it's kind of easy to do, but is it enough? We just talked about the food thing, David. Food. Is it enough in these cards?
I actually think that this partner pairing is actually just straight up bad.
Why?
Well, like disregarding even like the food, they have a lot of words on them, and I think that they like have enough to make it sound like it's kind of neat. But they're combat-focused commanders with relatively poor stats. They're kind of also a little bit slow, and I feel like you really need both in play for them to be impactful. I worry that like, okay, I have my 3-drop and my 4-drop, and now it's turn 5, and I'm finally ready to swing, and oh wait, it's turn 5, and my opponents are no longer scared of my 2/2 or my 3/3.
It's a bummer too that your 3/3 doesn't have first strike. So it's probably just gonna, unless you pump it up huge, it's gonna be just dying over and over.
Yeah, I think that this is a partner pairing that actually needs a lot more support to get off the ground than what it reads.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with all of you. I don't think it's that great either. Another reason why I actually cut these out of the deck. Not only does it not do the thing I wanted it to do, it's just it didn't seem that good. Let's move on to the grades. David, what are you giving these partner pairings?
I'm gonna give them a D. I don't think they're great.
I'm gonna join you in that D.
I'm gonna give it a C.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna be on the D train.
All right. Jenny Flint and Madame Vastra gets the average grade of a D. Moving on to Karvanista, Loyal Lupari. It is an adventure. So we will read the adventure part first. It is Lupari Shield, which is 1 and a green for sorcery. It says humans you control gain indestructible until your next turn. Well, Karvanista is 4 and a green for a 5/5 legendary creature, alien dog soldier. It's got vigilance, trample, and haste. And it says whenever Karvanista attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on each human you control.
You change that word sorcery into instant, and you got a winner, buddy.
I mean, how often are you? I mean, I guess, but
you guess what? A human matters deck in green, go wide. Somebody plays a board wipe. You have this in your fucking command zone.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but I don't know. Is mono green humans a thing?
I have no idea.
How many humans are in green?
Humans is the #1 biggest creature type.
I agree. Yeah, that's for sure.
I guess there's a little bit of cards.
I think that there's probably way more than enough creatures, human creatures in green for you to be able to make this deck relevant. I also love the fact that it has kind of keyword soup on it, so it's going to be impactful the turn that you drop it. And with that vigilance, it means like you can just kind of constantly swing this thing and not have to worry about blocks. I actually like this card quite a bit, and sadly, Steven, I think that the adventure portion of this is kind of flavor text. I think I want to get the dog in play as soon as possible.
I think it is flavor text, David. I'll agree with you on that. I just, if it said instant, I don't think that we would be looking at it that way.
I mean, even if it did say instant, I still want to get the dog in play as soon as possible. Like the instant, if it were an instant, yes, it's cool, and then it potentially saves your stuff. But like, I'm not going to hold back my commander that's going to pump my team because I think my opponent may have a board wipe.
I mean, you don't have to. I think that's like the really cool thing about this card is it could be both. If it's on the field or if it's in the command zone, I think there's so much flexibility between those two. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think it's good regardless.
I think this card says all the right things.
Yeah, it is. It is good. However, you're gonna have to start pumping up the dog because you are pumping up the soldiers, but this doesn't pump itself, which kind of sucks. I mean, it would be way too powerful if it does pump itself. But yeah,
it is a good thing that you're in a green deck that has the ability to put additional +1/+1 counters on things and manipulate those counters. I'm not worried about the power and toughness ratio here of the pup.
Let me tell you something about 5 mana cost commanders, though. They start dying, and you start getting sad. But luckily, you're in green.
Not in green.
No, I know. I'm just saying, from experience, it's fresh on my brain.
Well, let's move on to the grades for Karvanista. Shane,
if you're doing some human shenanigans, I do think he's a great choice. I'm gonna actually give him a B.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna agree with you. I think Karvanista is gonna get a B from me as well.
It's going to get a B from me.
And I'm gonna give him a C after I just talked him up.
Classic.
Well, the average grade for Karvanista is going to be a B. Next up, me, the Immortal. It's 2, a green, a blue, and a red for a 3/3 legendary creature human rogue. It says at the beginning of combat on your turn, put your choice of a +1/+1, first strike, vigilance, or menace counter on me, the Immortal. Also, counters remain on me as it moves in any other zone than a player's hand or library. It also says you may cast me from your graveyard by discarding 2 cards in addition to paying its other costs. Look at that. That's a fun one.
There's a lot that I want to like on this card, yeah.
I like this card a lot.
All right, David, why does it suck?
I'm not going to say that this sucks. I actually do like this card. 5 mana is a little bit on the rough side for like the Voltron style of things. However, the card is pretty decent. The only thing that I do want to say is that this reminds me, and I forgot the name of the card, there's a Golgari commander that does this kind of same thing where the counters remain on it across zones. If you are playing against somebody who has the ability to put -1/-1 counters on things, your commander is just gone forever.
Well, that sucks.
I mean,
you better bounce into your hand at that point.
So like Black Sun Zenith is just like absolutely decimating you.
well, true, but what if you can also just put +1/+1 counters on, so those don't go away either.
I mean, that is true. It's a little bit of a word of warning. Like if you get 3 -1/-1 counters on this without any other counters in play, congrats, your commander is no longer relevant.
That would suck, yes. That one instance.
I like me.
I like me too.
Me good.
Me good. Let's move on to me grades. Steven, what are you giving me?
Let me give it an A.
Whoa.
Well, I'm giving me a B.
I'm giving me a B too.
I'm gonna be in agreement there. I think this is just gonna be a B.
Me, the Immortal, is getting the average grade of a B. Moving on to Nardole, Resourceful Cyborg. It's 1 and a blue for a 1/2 legendary artifact creature scientist. Has an ability we can tap it, add 1 blue mana for each counter on Nardole. Spend this mana only to cast non-creature spells. It also has Undying, in case you forgot. That means when this creature dies, if it had no +1/+1 counters on it, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control with a +1/+1 counter on it. It's a Doctor Companion. What do we think, Shane?
I mean, I don't hate it, but I don't know. It's one of those things again where I'm like, I have to rack my brain about what the doctors do, because I definitely want to pair this with the Doctor, not only just for the color, but I also think just for relevancy of getting more abilities. Because I do think that tapping and getting a bunch of mana is pretty good. And I mean, the only way that he will trigger himself is that Undying. But if there's other ways that you could be putting, like if one of the other doctors puts a counter on him, and you start putting more counters on him, you'd be tapping for a lot of stuff, dude.
Yeah, I mean, only blue to cast non-creature spells. So I mean, there is a limit there. And
Yeah,
it does
that's
need.
fine.
I mean, you can put any type of counter on this. So I don't know though. What do you think, Dave?
This is a commander that does literally nothing on its own.
Well, it dies and comes back.
It dies and it does something on its own now.
That is cool. Yeah. No. I can have my commander be a mana dork if it's dead. Like, I'm not here for this card.
Yeah, this card's awful.
Let's move on to the grades for Nardole.
I will agree with David though. Like by itself, it doesn't really do much. So even though I said it'd be cool, I'm still probably gonna give it a D.
Yeah, I agree with you there. It's a D for me too.
I'm gonna give this card an F.
I'm joining Steven. This card is an F.
Well, Nardole, Resourceful Cyborg is the average grade of a D. Moving on to Osgood, Operation Double. 2 and 2 blue for a 2/2 legendary creature human alien shapeshift. It says when you cast this spell, create a token that's a copy of it, except it isn't legendary. You can tap it to add a colorless mana, spend this mana only to cast an artifact spell or activate an ability of an artifact. It also has Paradox, which means whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, investigate. How powerful is a commander if you get 2 of them?
I don't know.
I don't know if Paradox on its own is doing anything for me with this card. And then that just kind of basically means that this is 4 mana for 2 mana dorks. I think I'm running into the same problem that I ran into with the last card. This is 4 mana for essentially 2 mana dorks. This one at least like can tap without additional assistance, so that's pretty cool. But I mean, it is somewhat restrictive. You're only going to be able to use it for artifacts. I don't necessarily think that's a downside per se in blue. And then lastly there, the Paradox, I just don't think that that's going to be relevant most of the time. So do you want 4 mana for 2 mana dorks as your commander?
I think I want it in Urza.
I don't think you need it in Urza.
It'd be cool though.
I mean, you're comparing it to like probably the best mono blue commander on its own that makes a ton of mana from just itself.
Artifacts, yeah. I don't know. I think it's decent. I don't think it's terrible. I mean, two mana dorks in the command zone. Is that bad?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's good is the problem.
It's an opportunity cost because if this is in your command zone, something else is not.
All right, you make a good point. Let's move on to the grades, Dave. What are you giving Osgood?
I'm gonna give it a D. It's a little bit better than the last one.
I will go ahead and give this a D as well.
Operation Triple, more likely, because I'm joining you guys in the D?
It does something. It's a D.
Osgood, Operation Double gets the average grade of a D. Moving on to River Song. River Song is 1 a blue and a red for a 2/2 legendary creature, Human Time Lord Rogue. It's got Meet in Reverse, which means you draw cards from the bottom of your library rather than the top. It's also got Spoilers, which means whenever an opponent scries, surveils, or searches their library, put a +1/+1 counter on River Song. Then River Song deals damage to that player equal to its power. Let me just say,
Nah. Big nah.
Exactly. Meet in Reverse, as cool as it sounds, being in a practical sense, that is so annoying. I do
Horrible.
not want to draw from the bottom of my library.
This card is very, very flavorful, but I don't like anything this card does.
This card is fan-fucking-tastic.
Okay, because you can control when your opponents do those things.
It's not even the fact that you control. You just have, like, you're playing Commander. Fetches, people are searching. Like, if they search with this on the field, and you have anything that gives this +1/+1, like whatever its power is, this could hurt somebody greatly. Plus, you're in a really good color scheme to make your opponents draw cards, or sorry, not draw cards, search their libraries anyways. Like, this is good. This is great.
Yeah, I don't think you even need to pump this. I think that there's probably enough tutor effects in play to begin with, where your opponents are probably not going to target this, and this can very easily jump up to like a 5/5, and then your opponent's fetch lands are going to start hitting them for 6. Like, that is incredibly painful. Also, the drawing cards from the bottom of your library rather than the top. I know that from like a practical sense, it's a little bit funky to do that, but I'm actually a big fan of that as well. I mean, if anything, that's just like you can scry and kind of like protect what you're scrying, because your opponents aren't going to be able to manipulate like the top card of your library anymore. Not that that's super relevant or anything like that, but there's other things that you can do too, where you can specifically like put things on the bottom of your library, and this is kind of an upside for that.
Maybe in a higher power pod, but in just a casual pod, this is not what you're saying.
Yeah,
I mean, in a casual pod where fetches aren't all over the place and tutors aren't all over the place, and some casual pods, like, this is like just nothing.
I would argue against that, actually. I think that even in casual pods, like, there's a lot of tutors that you're missing out on. Like, even something like Fabled Passage, Evolving Wilds, Terramorphic Expanse, those cards to see play and just about like as low power as they come.
I challenge you to build this deck then.
During the game that we just played, I also did things like I cracked a Wayfarer's Bauble. There's also things like Armillary Sphere, which is very common. I mean, heck, this even triggers off of a Solemn Simulacrum.
I mean, yeah, that's true. That's all fine and dandy. But again, what Shane is reiterating to, it doesn't do anything until your opponent does something.
Not necessarily.
Yeah,
there are ways that you can take advantage of the Meet in Reverse.
I feel like at that point you're just playing a good Is It deck, and then this happens sometimes.
I'm going to agree with Shane. Let's move on to the grades for River Song. David, you're high on it. What are you giving River Song?
I am. I'm going to give it a C.
What?
Most of the cards we've talked about today, I have not been high on at all. So. No, this is absolutely not an A.
Because I'm saying I'm not about it. I'm giving it a D. So we're really not that far off.
Yeah, I'm not about it either. I'm joining you, Shane. This is a D.
Yeah, I'm 100% about this card, and I really do love Is It Spellslinger, and I think that the cool things this card does. I mean, I'll do 2 A's in one video. This is an A.
Wow.
You did it.
Well, the average here for River Song is going to be a C. Moving on, Ryan Sinclair. That's 2 in a red for a 2/2 legendary creature human. It says, whenever Ryan attacks, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card. You may cast the exiled card without paying its mana cost, if it's a spell with mana value less than or equal to Ryan's power. Put the exiled cards not cast this way on the bottom of your library in a random order. It's a Doctor's Companion.
Interesting.
So,
it's just like Cascade kind of, right?
No.
What?
I mean,
it's a Cascade for his power.
Discover. No.
Sorry, Discover. Nah. Either way, you're playing free things.
Well, you're hopefully playing free things.
Hopefully, you're right. Yeah.
You're going to be able to play one free thing that costs 2 mana or less over the course of the entire game.
I guess unless you do multiple combats, which sure. But I don't know. This card's weird.
This is swinging on turn 4, and it has 2 power and 2 toughness. This is never going to connect. And I know that it doesn't need to for its ability, but like you're going to trade your commander for whatever 2-drop you may have just hit. And that's assuming it's something that is like still relevant.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true, Dave.
This is like straight up. You're gonna do a net negative on this unless you have really bumped this thing's power up. And even in that case, you're still playing a random game.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a
I'll be
bad
honest with
random
you.
game.
I think this card would be really good if you don't put anything 2 or below in the deck, and you're running it with the War Doctor.
The War Doctor is pretty good.
This
Maybe.
card with the War Doctor, and if you build the deck right, so you actually don't hit anything off the Cascade, would be nuts.
Well, let's move on to the grades for Ryan Sinclair. Steven, what are you giving it?
Oh, this is a hands down. I don't really count the Doctor's Companion. This is a D for me.
It would be nuts. It's a D.
Yeah, it's a D for me too.
I'm gonna give it an F.
Well, Ryan Sinclair gets the average grade of a D. Next up, Strax, the Sontaran Nurse. It's 3, a red and a green for a 5/5 legendary creature alien cleric. It's got vigilance and trample. It also has grenades, which means you can pay 2, tap it, sacrifice an artifact, choose a player at random. When you do, Strax fights another target creature that player controls. It also has Glory of Battle, which means whenever Strax deals damage to a creature, put a +1/+1 counter on Strax. Shane, I believe you know this character from the Doctor Who world. What do you think of this as a potential commander?
I do know him. He's a cool, funny guy. Yeah, I don't know, man. This hurts somebody at random, and I guess it's cool that it gets bigger when it deals damage to the creature, but I don't know. I don't know how to feel about this.
This card's not great.
Maybe that's how I feel about it then. It's just kind of like a mess for me.
Yeah, there's that potential that you accidentally fight the biggest creature on board.
That would be on flavor for him.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, the Sontaran, there's like a war race, so they just love war.
Huh.
So like you're choosing a player at random. You're not choosing a creature at random.
Right. That's what I mean.
So unless your opponent happens to have like a 6/6 in play and that's their only creature, I think that you're relatively okay whenever it comes to like the whiff potential there. And also whenever it deals damage to a creature, put a +1/+1 counter on it. That's going to impact not just its ability, but like anytime it would just deal normal combat damage. If you want to put in a bunch of like fight spells and stuff like that. So this is a commander that does have the potential to get bigger, and because of the vigilance and trample, and it already starting at 5, like I can see this in a Voltron build.
Nah.
When you do damage though, like let's say you fight or attack or whatever, if you're dealing 5, or if it's a 5/5 that you're hitting, would they die before that 1/1 gets added to it?
Yeah.
Bummer. Just checking.
But if you have one of the like it deals damage equal to its power, not one of the fight spells per se, but like this will hit that, and then it'll get a +1/+1 counter, and then maybe you can swing in and not have to worry about it tapping. I just think that the tap ability is just like a silly little way for you to like kind of kill two things because of the vigilance on this. So this is a way for you to like just make sure that your opponent's boards are kind of minimized, and then that trample is going to be extra dangerous.
Yeah, I don't think this card is terrible. I actually I would much rather prefer it not to have a fight spell. Instead, just deal damage equal to its power to something else. But I understand it has to be limited some way.
They're a proud race, dude.
They're a proud race. Well, let's move on to the grades for Strax. I'm giving it a C.
Yeah, this card's a D.
I'm back in the middle of the road with a C.
I am also going to give this one a C. Also, by the way, does he only have 3 fingers per hand?
Yep, 2 fingers and a thumb.
Cool.
Awesome. Strax, Sontaran Nurse, gets the average grade of a C. Next up, the Fugitive Doctor. It's 3, a red and a green for a 4/4 legendary creature, Time Lord Doctor. It says whenever the Fugitive Doctor enters the battlefield, investigate. And whenever the Fugitive Doctor attacks, you may sacrifice a clue. When you do, target instant or sorcery card in your graveyard gains flashback 2 red, green until end of turn. That's a build around clue deck. What do we think about that in Gruul?
No.
Flashback, like, sure. What are you doing in these colors that you want to be flashback?
Fight spells. We just talked about it.
That's true. Okay.
There's
Double
more
the amount
that
of
you
fight
could
spells.
do. Red and green still has quite a bit of stuff that you can end up using this for. I think that the ETB is kind of silly, and like you obviously have to have some kind of clue generation in order for this to actually like do anything. But I don't know. The card's not bad. It's not great. I really feel like they were trying to make a ton of legendary creatures that were not going to be super pushed with this set.
They were just trying to make stuff thematic, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think you're on point there with probably just thematic. Just has something to do with investigating clues and bringing stuff back. I don't know.
It makes sense. Like, right, they need to make legendary creatures for flavor, but they don't want to flood Commander with just like a ton of playable things, because then we just be like, what? All these are amazing. So you get some duds.
Oh, don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
I'm not arguing that they should change up their strategy there. If anything, I do appreciate it.
Oh yeah, I'm agreeing.
This card's awful. It's not what Gruul wants.
But what if it is? What if it's
It's
something
not.
new? It's something new. It's something different.
No.
Okay.
Stop trying to make it work, Hunter.
All right, let's move on to the grades then. What do you give the Fugitive Doctor, Shane?
I'm gonna do the thing where I always do the thing where I say it does a thing, so it's a D.
It does a thing. It's a D.
Does a thing. It's an F.
Oh boy. I actually think that there is probably enough clue generation for you to be able to get this off the ground. I also think that flashback, even in Gruul, is still relevant. I'm gonna give this a C. We're gonna give it a C.
Whoa. All right. The Fugitive Doctor gets the average grade of a D. The next is the 12th Doctor. It is 3 a blue and a red for a 4/4 legendary creature Time Lord Doctor. It says the first spell you cast from anywhere other than your hand each turn has Demonstrate. What does that mean? When you cast that spell, you may copy it. If you do, choose an opponent to also copy it. A copy of a permanent spell becomes a token. And whenever you copy a spell, put a +1/+1 counter on the 12th Doctor.
Man, I want to help you guys.
Yeah, absolutely not. You said so many good words that I wanted to hear, and then there came that little line. No.
You mean giving your opponent a copy of the spell?
Yeah, absolutely
Yeah.
not. Like if we're playing two-headed giant, then that's cool. But never in any other capacity.
And a two-headed giant, isn't the person on your side still is that a person opponent?
Don't think so.
Oh, whatever.
Like I don't play a whole lot of two-headed giant.
I don't think I've ever played it.
I just made the reference. I don't know what I'm talking about.
I just know that like that is a format in which like there's somebody who's like on your team-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't like this card, man. Unfortunate.
Demonstrate is very group hug, right? You're like, don't touch me, I'm scared type of thing. Like, I'll give you cool stuff if we're friends. Very politicky.
Yeah, I guess.
This card, I know how you guys feel about it, but I'm actually a big fan of this card.
Yeah?
Crazy, dude.
I mean, let's throw a idea out there, right?
I'm listening.
Let's just say by chance you guys may not be playing any red or any blue, and I play a Pact of the Titan or a Pact of Negation, and you guys don't have any treasures and you can't pay that cost, you lose the game.
Huh. You have to cast that though from not your hand.
Yeah, so just play exile effects.
That's a lot of hoops.
No, it's
you
not.
You gotta pay 5.
Clearly, there are cards you can play with that. There are different companions you can put into this. I mean, literally, Hunter's Yasmin Khan, Susan. I mean, like there are so many of these cards you can play, especially with like Vizsla Turlo or whatever the fuck that guy's name is. Like this can go pretty good.
Yeah. It could, I guess. You make a good point with if you can't spend blue, you lose the game.
Or if you do Pact of the Titan, I mean that's red, you know?
Yeah. I don't know. Feels like a bit of a hoop to jump through though.
I mean, in Spellslinger, you can search for your spells. I mean, I don't think it's that big of a hoop at all.
I don't know. Demonstrating
more
things
other than your hand.
I mean, I understand. I'm just saying, like, you can very easy ways to manipulate a lot of things. You can put stuff on the top of your library, and then you can go ahead and just exile it and then play that card.
Well, let's move on to the grades for the 12th Doctor. Steven, what are you giving it?
I'm going to give it a B.
Yeah, I'm not about this card. I'm actually going to give it a D.
I am so much not for this card. I'm going to go with an F.
I don't think I'm that against it, but I'm with Hunter. I'm going to give it a D as well, man.
The 12th Doctor gets the average grade of a D. Moving on to the 13th Doctor. It's 1 a green and a blue for a 2/2 legendary creature Time Lord Doctor. Got Paradox, which means whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. So we've got Team TARDIS, which means at the beginning of your end step, untap each creature you control with a counter on it. I did the upgrade for this Paradox power. If you guys haven't seen that, check the description. I kept this as the Face Doctor, and let me tell you, it's an interesting take on the +1/+1 counter theme because you want to be casting things from other than your hand, so you have to do these loops or hoops. And you just got to do a little too much to get the counter thing. And if you want to just do straight up counters, go straight up counters.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what does this card even do, dude? Because I don't think I've ever seen what it does.
It never has. That's the thing. This card doesn't do anything whenever you actually play the card.
It's unfortunate.
I'll build a round card for sure. Pseudo Vigilance if you get something with a +1/+1 counter on it.
There are several hoops that you need to jump through for you to be able to just like get this thing going. I'm just not seeing this.
Yeah.
I also think that realistically, like you probably really need to play the red companion or like a red companion, so that you can have access to some of that like exile these cards and then until like end of turn, and then you can cast them until end of turn type of thing. Otherwise, this is just really inconsistent.
I did pair it with Yasmin Khan. We will see that card in a minute. But yeah.
I think this card's pretty fun. I mean, especially with a companion. I mean, I just think, it is a little tough. It's like Conjure said. Yasmin Khan costing a little bit more than this is kind of sucks.
Kind of sucks.
But I think if you build around it well enough, I think it could be a pretty fun deck.
I think in on paper, I think this card sounds great, which is funny because it is on paper. But I don't know. I'm kind of with David, where I get that it's not a quote unquote lot of hoops, but it's not very straightforward, and for that, I'm just not as high on this card.
Let's move on to the grades. I'm going to give the 13th Doctor a C.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the middle of the road with this thing too, man. I want it to be good. I'm gonna give it a C.
Yeah, it's a C for me as well.
I'm actually gonna give this a D. I don't think this is a very good card.
The 13th Doctor gets the average grade of a C. Moving on to the final card we are talking about today. This is Yasmin Khan. It is 3 and a red for a 3/3 legendary creature human detective. It has an ability where you can tap it, exile the top card of your library until your next end step. You may play it. Doctor's Companion. So there it is, David. This is the partner I paired up with the 13th Doctor. It does cost more than the 13th Doctor. So unfortunately, on curve, as much as I would like this out first to do the thing when the 13th comes in, it doesn't do that. It's slower.
I don't really have much to say about this card either. It's a cool ability in that you can repeat this every turn. Even with that though, the first activation of this is probably going to happen on turn 5, and this on its own really doesn't do a whole lot for you. Like, it's pseudo card advantage, but I just think that there are better things that you can be doing. I'm not high on this card either.
I really, really wish this would have said until the end of your next turn.
Yeah, man, it's like that Wraith that I played with from Lord of the Rings, dude. It's just like, okay, you get to do it this turn. Go.
Yeah. Go.
I don't know, man. I think, David and I were actually talking about this card the other day, and we were just like, this would slot really well into Prosper.
David loves Prosper.
Dave, you said that, huh?
I'm thinking about this, Hunter, and were you playing this card wrong?
What do you mean?
Exile the top card of your library until your next end step. You may play it. So, like, you can pop this on your opponent's turn.
That's what he was doing.
That's what I was doing.
Okay. So, all right. Even with you playing it that way, this card never did anything. All right.
Yeah,
I will
land.
say I don't think that at all. I think the $100 gameplay actually showed a lot of what this deck could do, and I think it was actually kind of aggressive. You were smacking us for a ton of damage, man. Like playing those cards from exile with that, background. I think it was a pretty solid build. Just unfortunately, the with EDH, there's a lot of board wipes. There's a lot of commander death.
Yeah, that's the thing about having two commanders is that you want all of it on one card, but it's on two, so you have to cast both of them again. But yeah, let's move on to the grade for Yasmin Khan. Once again, I'm giving this a C.
I'm going to stick with my grade for the previous card. I'm going to give this a D as well.
I'm gonna stick with my grade from the previous card. I'm gonna give this a C.
Yeah, I'm in the middle road C, bud.
Yasmin Khan gets the average grade of a C. And that is going to do it for this video of Paradox Power, the Precon deck from Doctor Who. Once again, if you guys haven't already seen the upgrades to this deck, check the description for the $100 and $300 upgrade. Also, like this video if you liked it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Comment down below letting us know what you guys thought of our grades for these cards. Did you agree? Did you disagree? Maybe we were missing something that you guys know about one of these cards that we don't. And in the description, you will find links to our social media accounts. Go ahead and follow us on all of those as well to keep up to date with what we've got going on. That's Instagram, X, and TikTok. Also, a Patreon if you want to see extra content and some giveaways and some Discord server and all cool exclusive access to things. And until the next video, hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Peace.
Later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.